a Brexiteer who opposes the license fee is favourite to become the next chairman of the BBC. Former newspaper editor Charles Moore, who has been a fierce critic of the corporation over its politically correct bias, is said to be no 10's choice for the job. The move would infuriate BBC bosses over fears it will lead to the end of compulsory payments to fund it and a radical change in culture. Boris Johnson gave the Old Etonian, who was his boss at the Daily Telegraph, a peerage earlier this year. Andrew Neil said BBC executives were choking on their muesli when he was previously linked to the job. The political broadcaster ruled out taking on the role but said now Lord Moore is favourite. He expected the BBC to be begging me to take it. The peer, 63, has been highly critical of the BBC's Question Time for being constantly dominated by the political classes. He said guests were overwhelmingly Remainers and the show utterly fails to reflect the wider country. The columnist accused Radio 4's flagship Today programme of preaching to listeners. The BBC has decided to be a secular church and it preaches and tells us what we ought to think about things, he said. So, it tells us we shouldn't support Brexit and we should accept climate alarmism. Earlier this year he wrote that the BBC could not carry on as before and must accept the new technology means it cannot dominate in the way it previously has. He described the organization as woke, pro-Remain, credulously green, anti-market, obsessed with issues connected with diversity, yet itself not truly diverse at all. Lord Moore describes the license fee as an offence to freedom and a poll tax for anyone with a television. He says people who fail to pay and end up in court are almost always poor. BBC Chairman Sir David Clementi's 3-year term ends in February. Former Tory cabinet ministers Nicky Morgan and Amber Rudd are also in the frame to take over. New Director General Tim Davie has admitted the BBC is not always delivering for working-class viewers.